This week, 10 stock Pro Tools plugins at still rate. This is part 1, let's dig in. We are obsessed with gear in this game, and we have to have all the best plugins, all the best compressors, all the best mixing desks, otherwise we can't do the job, right? Nope, absolutely wrong. We have access to a lot of amazing resources for absolutely nothing. Now, I'm going to come across as a bit of a hypocrite because, you know what, I own hundreds of plugins and I love loads of them. But when you're first starting out, you don't need to go out and spend thousands of pounds on plugins, because guess what, you get a load of them for absolutely nothing included with your DAW. The DAW that I use is Pro Tools Studio, and it comes loaded with loads of great plugins that are absolutely free, and I'm going to give you a few of them that I really dig, that I use a lot, and most of them I still use today. Before we get into it though, I need you to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Like, the algorithm gods are being total dicks to me right now. I'm really trying to break through. Also, if any of this stuff is useful to you and you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link below. I've had 1 coffee in 3 months. So let's see if we can get it up to 2, yeah? Now, I'm an avid plugin collector. I have got hundreds of them and I love them. But honestly, you don't need to do this right at the very start. So if you're just beginning and you don't want to spend that kind of money, or maybe you just don't have that kind of money available to spend on plugins, don't worry, there's loads of stuff that comes free with Pro Tools. Now, a few of these plugins come in the extra bundle. There's an extra bundle that you have to download when you get Pro Tools. It kind of surprises me how many people don't realise that. So go into your Avid account, download them, and honestly, you're going to love some of them. Let's make a start. Number 1, Impact. Everybody talks about the SSL bus compressor. It's one of the most famous compressors ever. And for good reason, because you know what? It is really fucking cool. The hardware ones sound amazing. The ones that come in SSL desks are fantastic. And they've been the sound of music production for years and years. There's loads and loads of plugin versions of them. And honestly, some of them are absolutely amazing. Impact is Avid's take on that compressor, and it is really good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it across my drum bus to try and add a little bit of extra vibe and energy to it. Putting that compressor on a drum bus is a really sort of popular thing to do, so you'll have heard that sound before. Let's have a listen. Okay, so we've got the plugin open and I've got a wee ratio of 2:1. My attack is pretty slow. My release is really fast. So my attack's slow so that I can preserve the transients of the drums, which is like super important, and the release is really fast so that it's nice and snappy. Let's listen to the drums without this plugin. And now with it. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. It's got a bit more of an analog feel, it's got a bit more vibe, and the snare's got a bit more length. Let me toggle it on and off for you. That's definitely adding some extra vibe, and like I said, the length that it adds to the snare drum I'm really enjoying. This is definitely a cool plugin. Alright, next up, Lo-Fi. So the Air Lo-Fi plugin can do some pretty crazy and mental stuff. A lot of it I would never ever use, but there is one setting on it which is absolutely amazing that I've been using for years and years. I came across this reading Sound on Sound magazine. There was an interview with Adele's producer who was talking about how he was struggling to get backing vocals to sit right. If you turned them up, they kind of masked the lead vocal, and if you had them too low, they were just getting lost. So he employed this plugin to add harmonic distortion to those backing vocals to help them just kind of jump out a bit. I decided to give it a go, and I honestly became quite obsessed with harmonic distortion ever since. I've talked about this in the past, that I have got a problem with harmonic distortion, and honestly, I fucking love it. So I guess this is where it all began. It is a brilliant sounding plugin, and it's particularly this preset, this tape saturation preset that it has that sounds so good. It's used really sparingly, like as I said, this thing can do nut stuff, but it really does add a lot of vibe and energy. Doesn't work across everything. I wouldn't go putting it on absolutely everything, by the way I used to, but if you know how to use it and you know when to use it, it is a super useful tool for making your mixes sound that little bit bigger. Shall we have a look? Okay, so I've opened up Lo-Fi and I've went into the preset menu and I've selected tape saturation. And as I said, you can notice that the distortion and the saturation are set super low. So this thing isn't doing much, but it's adding a little something. So I've got it on my kick drum just now. Let's have a listen. And with it, and let's do this in isolation. So you can hear it really adds a lot to that. It really gets thicker, more vibey, a bit more analogy basically. Now I've also got it on a couple of my snare drums. And with. And again in isolation. We'll start with it off and then I'll toggle it in. So they really thicken up really quite massively actually. I really love this plugin. I've used it so much. Okay, toms next, so we'll listen to it without. There's only one tom in this section. So the low end really thickens up on that tom and it makes it a lot more weighty. I love it. Let's do it on its own. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. So let's listen to those drums. We've got impact still in, and let's listen to it without lo-fi in, and then again with lo-fi in. Really cool. Now, I love this plugin so much, I'm going to put it elsewhere as well. So I'm going to put it on both my guitar buses. So let's listen to my guitar bus on its own without anything. And with lo-fi in. Yeah, much bigger, much thicker. I'm going to toggle it on and off. Yeah, that's huge. And for such a small amount of distortion and the tiniest amount of saturation, like that is such a big difference. Okay, let's do my other guitar bus now. So again, with it off. And on. And again, let me toggle it on and off for you. That's really great. So let's listen to all three of these elements without lo-fi on. Here's the full mix without any of this lo-fi in. And then let's bring lo-fi in. That's massive. Like, we'll toggle it off and on. just so much more open and bigger and cooler. I love it. All right, next up is Deverb. Pro Tools stock basic bitch reverb. It's called Deverb and it's really good. And actually there's a lot of producers and mixers out there, I'm talking high-end people, that are still using it today. I've got a bunch of reverbs in my plugin library and I love loads of them, but honestly this thing is really, really good. So if you don't have a lot of options, do have a look at this because it really, really works. It's got loads and loads of different settings, lots and lots of different vibes. It's definitely worth having a look at. Let's go. Okay, so looking at Deverb, what I've done is I went into a preset and I've selected this medium room setting and I've made some adjustments to it. So I always end up pushing the gain up a little bit and I want slightly longer decay, usually between 7 and 800. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start with this on the drums only, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you hear the drums without it. And now with it. That sounds amazing. It sounds really realistic as well. It sounds like it's in a space. This is a really, really great reverb plugin. It doesn't sound unnatural, and that's the really key thing, and it's adding loads and loads. So let's toggle it on and off. Again, that's a really massive, massive difference. It's just gotten bigger, it's gotten wider, it's got more vibe, and it sounds realistic. You really need to check this plugin out. It's great. And let's listen to it in the context of the whole mix with the reverb off and the reverb on. Love that tail there. And then I'll toggle it on and off. Yeah, there is nothing wrong with Deverb at all. And just so you know, I do have a little bit of my guitars going to that reverb as well. Next up, the SansAmp PSA1. Okay, the SansAmp PSA1 is a plug-in recreation of a really old bit of hardware from, funnily enough, SansAmp. It was the predecessor to an amp modeler, basically, and it was made famous by quite a few people, particularly Rammstein. There's a setting on it that is the Rammstein setting. Now, I haven't really used it as a guitar processor much, but I do really, really like it on bass. So on a DI bass, this has got a few settings in it that really, really work well, and I've used loads and loads. In particular, the in-your-face bass 1 and 2, like honestly, I can't tell you how much I've used it. It's really, really good. You can use it for other things as well, like for some special effects. It can work quite well for getting some dirty vocal effects. But honestly, for me, I've always used this on bass. And again, as I said, can't tell you how many records I've had this on. Let's have a listen to it. Okay, so here's the SansAmp PSA1. As I said, it's a recreation of a bit of hardware, which is usually what I'm all about. What I've done is I've gone into the preset menu, I went to this bass sub-menu and selected In Your Face Bass 2. And it sounds really great. So let's listen to the bass on its own. Now for a DI, that sounds pretty nice. It was a really lovely bass. Let's bring in the plugin. That sounds really cool. It's got that really sort of like scooped mid bass thing. I think that sounds fantastic. So let's toggle it on and off. That sounds massive. Like, that's such a big difference. It sounds like a proper bass now. This is such a cool plugin, and I've honestly used this setting so much. All right, next up, 11 free. So 11 is a guitar sim basically, and the name 11 Free tells you it's absolutely free. Avid used to have something called the 11 Rack, which was actually really good in its time. I only just sold mine actually, and it does the same thing that loads of them do. It has different amp settings, different cab settings, and it allows you to take a DI guitar signal and make it sound like a guitar. Now, to be brutally honest with you, I'm not using this as my main guitar sound, but it is really useful for layers. I had a project a few years ago that needed a little something extra, so I took the DI that I used as the guide track, I slapped 11 on it, blended it in, and it sounded really cool. I'm going to do something similar with this example. I'm going to do something with the bass guitar to make it sound a little bit cool. So this is what 11 looks like. What I've done is I've selected the amp type as the modern overdrive, and I've selected a 4x12 classic vintage 30 cab. So what I've done here is I've selected the bright switch, I've turned the gain down a little bit, pulled out some mids to give it that kind of like scoop bass thing, added a touch of bass here, and I've taken a little bit of the treble out. So let's listen to it on its own, just the DI. And now with the plugin active. But the trick here is mixing this in with the other bass guitar. So let me bring in the other bass guitar and turn 11 off. And now with 11. That sounds really cool. It's really dirty, really grindy. I love it. And what I can do is I can mess around with the balance with a fader. Let's listen to it with the drums. What I'll do is I'll take the 11 out of the equation. The bass is almost lost now, so this is adding so much. Yeah, this sounds fantastic. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that useful, of course, but I hope you're going to wait till next week for the next 5. This is me trying to work the algorithm and try and wet you guys' whistles so that you come back next week. And again, let me remind you to like, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. It really helps. I really like doing this shit and I want to do more, and if you guys want to learn some more, I'm happy to help. So, see you next time.